Welcome to Homecoming Weekend. Homecoming Weekend. On 88.1 FM, WCWP, Brookville, New York.
This is Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri, the leadoff hitter for Homecoming Weekend here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm privileged to once again kick off the weekend. It's apparently World Smile Day, according to Facebook, which I checked before I went on the air. And we're going to start the show off, and it's a show with all but 3 songs from 2016. The other 3 are from last year, 2015. And this one just came out last week by Chuck Loeb, Cotton Club. Once again, I say Cotton Club. 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. This is Instrumental Invasion, and I am Mike Chimeri, and this is the first show of Homecoming Weekend, and there's a ton of time left in the weekend, and we'll play you some promos, give you an idea of what's coming up tomorrow, a little later. You just heard Kim Waters with Bring It from Rhythm and Romance, which came out on June 3rd. And before that, somebody that's worked with Kim Waters in the past, Chuck Loeb, with Cotton Club from Unspoken, which came out just last Friday, featuring Jeff Lorber on piano. We're going to hear more from Chuck and from Jeff as the show progresses, including one group that they're in together called Jazz Funk Soul. Everett Harp rounds out that trio. But right now, here are Yellow Jackets. And I consider this sort of a political song. It's called Inevitable Outcome, and I certainly can say that about one election. Enough said. Yellow Jackets, Inevitable Outcome, Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri, 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I've said too much. 88.1 FM, and it's WCWP.org. Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri is the show you're listening to here on Homecoming Weekend. That was BWB with BWB from BWB. No joke. It's the name, the band, the song, and the album. And that came out on Earth Day, April 22nd, the same day as Yellow Jackets' album Coherence, from which you heard Inevitable Outcome. Now, getting back to BWB, the first B is Rick Braun, the W is Kirk Whalum, and the second B is Norman Brown. Rick plays trumpet, Kirk Whalum plays tenor sax, and Norman Brown plays guitar. So, who's next? The Rippingtons, another group, with Wild Tales. 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We're in the early stages of Homecoming Weekend, and this is Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri. Pieces of a Dream with All In from All In, which came out November 6th, 2015. Before that, the Rippingtons with Wild Tales from True Stories, which came out on June 24th of this year, 2016. It's starting to fill up here at WCWP. There's alumni in the building besides me. There's Jeff Kroll, there's Pat Kroll, there's Bruce Leonard, there's John Zoney, and Magic Mike Hendricks, who's coming up after me. He's also here. And here's what you can expect on WCWP tomorrow.
The WCWP.
Well, you can expect that all weekend long, but this is what you can expect tomorrow.
It's homecoming weekend and the alumni are back all weekend long on WCWP. This is Pete Bellotti. Join me for a special Pioneers pregame show tomorrow at noon. You'll hear from Coach Brian Collins, plus a few surprises along the way, only on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
This kid throwing on 1st and 10 for the end zone. Touchdown Pioneers!
The WCWP alumni are back for homecoming weekend, including coverage of LIU Post Pioneer football. Hi, I'm Jeff Kroll.
And I'm Neil Marks. Join us tomorrow afternoon at 12:50 for all the action as the Pioneers meet St. Anselm College.
We'll have special pregame coverage with Pete Bellotti beginning at noon. Then Neil and I are back to call another homecoming football game for the Pioneers tomorrow afternoon beginning at 12:50. It's all part of homecoming weekend here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
Hi, I'm Bernie Bernard. Join me tomorrow right after the football game for an open house from 4:30 to 7 p.m. We'll have music and alumni stopping by, and I'll reveal the next inductees into the WCWP Hall of Fame. It all happens this homecoming weekend on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
Homecoming weekend runs round the clock until midnight Sunday.
That's right, and we'll see you tomorrow night. I'm Mike Riccio, he's Bobby G. We'll be here between 7 and 10 o'clock. Hope to see you then at 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
You're listening to Homecoming Weekend on WCWP. I can't believe it's 45 years since I set foot in this radio station. I'm John Cummins. I'll be with you Sunday at 12 midnight until 2 a.m., immediately following Bruce Leonard's show from 10 until midnight. So join us all weekend long on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
We're back on Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri with Ken Navarro, my best friend. .1 FM and WCWP.org, Homecoming Weekend, Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri. You just heard the Bob Mintzer All LA Band with Having Some Fun, and we're having some fun this weekend from All LA Band, which came out on September 2nd. Before that, Ken Navarro with My Best Friend. And he's a I don't know if he's my best friend, but he's up there. And that's from Bonfire, which came out on September 16th, but it was released sooner on his website. Next is Ollie Silk, and this is from an album that came out on July 15th, the day before my sister's birthday. I was at Fire Island Lighthouse that day, July 15th. Never been there, but it was a fun experience. But anyway, this is the title track to Ollie Silk's latest album, Where I Left Off.
The WCWP Homecoming Weekend.
That's what this is on 88.1 FM. And WCWP.org. Gordon Goodwin's Little Fat Band, P-H-A-T, with Cot, C-O-T, in the act, from An Elusive Man, which came out on September 9th. And before that, we heard Ollie Silk with Where I Left Off, from Where I Left Off, which was released July 15th. This song that takes us into hour 2 is was released all the way back in January 22nd. It's jazz, funk, soul, and the song is called Fall Departs, but fall still has a couple of months left in it.
It's Homecoming Weekend here on 88.1 FM, WCWP, Brookville, New York.
This is hour 2 of Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Hour 2 wrapped up with jazz, funk, soul with Fall Departs from more serious business, because the first album they had the song Serious Business on it, and More Serious Business came out on January 22nd. Jazz Funk Soul is Jeff Lorber, Chuck Loeb, and Everett Harp. Jeff plays keyboards, Chuck plays guitar, Everett Harp plays saxophone. And Chuck and Jeff wrote that song, Fall to Parts, along with Nathan East, who also played bass, and Chuck and Nate are in Foreplay, and we're going to hear them after we hear Nelson Rangel and a song featuring Mitchell Foreman on piano. It's called Another Way. Here on Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri, Homecoming Weekend. That ending sneaks up on you. It's 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Foreplay with Aniversario from Silver, which came out last November 20th, a few days after my birthday. It's their 25th anniversary album this year. 2016 is their 25th anniversary. Released their first album in 1991, and it was called Foreplay. And they're called Foreplay because it's a quartet. You have Bob James, Nathan East, Harvey Mason, and Chuck Loeb. And before we heard Foreplay, we heard Nelson Rangel with Another Way from Red, which came out last February 1st, Super Bowl Sunday. Next up is the Jeff Lorber Fusion. And there it is. And it's a tribute to that great Ford Mustang. .1 FM and WCWP.org. Homecoming weekend is rolling along. And we're only about an hour and 20 minutes in. There's plenty more time to go. I've said that already, but I don't care. Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri is the name of the show you're listening to. Magic Mike Hendricks comes up after me. That was Matt Marshak with On My Way from New York, which came out on June 1st. I got my copy at Smooth Jazz for Scholars, J. Rowe's annual benefit concert in Milford, Connecticut. Matt was there the first night. And before we heard Matt Marshak, we heard the Jeff Lorber Fusion with Mustang from Step It Up, which came out 2 weeks before Homecoming weekend last year, September 25th, 2015, featuring Bob Mintzer on tenor sax. Next is a song by Mark Etheridge, Bing, Bang, Boom. 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Richard Elliott with Kashasa from Summer Madness, which came out on September 9th. That's a Spyro Gyra cover. They originally did that, band Spyro Gyra did, on their Carnival album in 1980. One of two albums they released that year, Carnival and Catching the Sun came before that one. And before we heard Richard Elliott's take on Kashasa, we heard Mark Etheridge with Bing Bang Boom from Connected, which came out on February 26th, featuring Paul Brown on guitar. We're going to hear Paul Brown a little later in the show, but first we go from one Mark to another Mark. Mark Etheridge spells his name with a K. Mark Antoine spells it with a C. This is from his Laguna Beach album that came out a couple of weeks ago, featuring Philippe Sace on the keyboards and marimba. New Morning is the song.
The WCWP Homecoming Weekend.
That's what this is, and it will be for a while. Gerald Albright here on Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri with Taking Control from G, which came out last Friday. Lost track of my days. And before that, Mark Antoine with New Morning from Laguna Beach, which came out 2 weeks ago, September 23rd, featuring Philippe Sace on keyboards and marimba. Here's Herb Alpert, 81 years young, and a new album that came out last week, same day as Gerald Albright's album and Chuck Loeb's album. And the song we're going to hear from his album, Human Nature, is Doodles. .1 FM and WCWP.org. We're in the home stretch of Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri, and we make way for Magic Mike Hendricks after that. Paul Brown with Take Flight from One Way Back, which came out last Friday, featuring Peter White on acoustic guitar to Paul Brown's electric guitar. Peter has an album coming out on October 28th called Groovin'. It's an album of covers from the 60s and 70s, and he's released 2 other albums along that line, Reflections and Playin' Favorites. And before we heard Paul Brown, we heard Herb Alpert with Doodles from Human Nature, which also came out last Friday. Well, we have 3 songs left in Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri, and this is one of those songs, Katie's Groove by J. Rowe. It's a tribute to Katy Perry, but frankly, it doesn't sound anything like her. But that's okay, it's still a great song. Debuted it at Smooth Jazz for Scholars years ago, finally put it on an album. .1 FM and WCWP.org. That was Paul Jackson Jr. Lots of Pauls and Marks in this show. With Sassay. Paul Jackson Jr. with Sassay from Sassay from Stories from Stompin' Willie, which came out on June 16th. Before that, J. Rowe with Katie's Groove from Smooth Ride, which came out over the summer. At least that's when I got the what I pre-ordered at Smooth Jazz for Scholars. We have 1 song left here in Instrumental Invasion with Mike Chimeri, and it's by Keiko Matsui from her Journey to the Heart album, which came out on August 5th. Moving On is the song, and we're moving on to Magic Mike Hendricks after Keiko Matsui's Moving On. This is Mortal Mike Chimeri saying, enjoy homecoming weekend. So long.